Got Your Eers On is brought to you by Tactical Legion Knives. Live from the campus of Tom Radio, under the direction of Guido, Scoot, and Johnson, it's the pride of podcasting. It's Got Your Eers On.
All right, everybody, hello and welcome to this week's episode of Got Your Eers On. I'm Guido along with Scoot.
Basketball?
And Johnson.
I got nothing.
He's got nothing this week. I mean, you have a whole week to prepare for me introducing you.
It's always a last-minute thing, and then Scoot throws me off, and then I don't know what to say. So insert witty statement here.
Well, guys, it's been a week of basketball, but on top of everything else, Bob Huggins did not get into the Basketball Hall of Fame, and so that's out for this year. Kind of a bummer. He was not announced as one of the finalists. But here's what I'm looking at. We dropped to 17 in the AP poll, but my boy, Ken Palm, didn't change us at all. He still has a 7th and adjusted for defense number 2.
Does that surprise you, though?
No, and here's the thing. Even ESPN...
I mean, what's your reaction to that new ranking?
To the 17?
Yeah. Well, both really. I mean, because that's still strong on Ken Palm.
For me, the 17 from the AP poll was a little harsh, I think. You know, we were, what, 14? 14?
Yeah.
14. We played 2 of the top 3, and in some cases, the top 2 teams, you know, in the nation last week, back to back, one on the road, number 1 on the road. And I get that we were going to go down. I honestly thought it was going to be like one place. Like I thought it was going to be a 15. I kind of think we got hosed by the AP poll dropping us to 17.
Scoot, I was going to say, I thought that was actually pretty good because in my mind, that was a, I'm just going to go ahead and say that was a terrible second half against Kansas. And then at Baylor, it was bad start to finish. Just they had us on the ropes, I felt, start to finish. So I'm okay with that. I'm glad that we're still at that ranking. I thought maybe we'd be penalized for that, you know, for those 3 halves of basketball.
I didn't think we'd drop all that far. When you play the number 1 team and the number 3 team in the same week back to back, and you lose, and the first game you really lost down to the wire. It wasn't like it was a blowout. Right. I thought you showed that you could hang with those kinds of teams. Couple things happened differently, and it's a different outcome. The Baylor game, I don't know that it made me feel horrific about the team. I think it made me feel like, well, apparently Baylor is legit.
I will tell you, like I actually went back and watched some of the Baylor game, rewatched some of the Baylor game, if you will, and we looked on our heels. You know, we looked like we were a little taken back, but I think that Baylor team is legit.
Yeah,
like I think that's.
No, I do too. There's no doubt they're solid.
Speaking of on their heels, that Baylor defender really looked like he was on his heels when Oscar got called for the offensive foul. Man, did he really get into him there?
Was that the foul where was the foul where Oscar did nothing? Is that what we were talking about?
That would be the one. Yeah, that would be the one where Oscar, like, I didn't even move the guy, let alone foul him.
I don't think he even touched the guy. Like, I'm not even sure there was contact there.
Well, can we go back and just hit the Kansas game really quick and then move?
Absolutely, the Kansas game was awesome. Ben Roethlisberger was there. That was exciting.
Yeah, that was unexpected, right? With Ryan Switzer.
Yeah, I mean he and I don't know if I finally figured out where he was on the court in the courtside seats.
Yeah,
and it was kind of fun to watch him because he kind of got pumped. He got into the game. You know, he was pretty pumped and was supporting WVU.
Yeah, he had the coonskin cap on there at one point. No, that was pretty cool. Celebrity sighting in more a big celebrity. The Kansas game, Johnson, was not atrocious. It just that's a interesting matchup. Kansas is the number 1 scoring team in the Big 12. And yet this was the first game this season that they've won where they haven't scored more than 68 points. Yeah, and and to their credit, they're also, at the time at least, I don't know, one game since then, but they were ranked with the number 1 defense in all of college basketball at the time. So
Right. They're still so if you look at Ken Palm and you adjust it for defense, they're number 1. West Virginia's number 2.
okay.
Hence the reason why that game barely broke 50 points for both teams.
Well, and I thought really, and I'm saying, we kind of let it get away in that second half. I guess it's a shame that's what happened, because up until that point, I thought we had it in control and we were playing really well. Considering the defense that they play, we were actually scoring pretty well.
I will admit, post game, and I think you guys were with me on the text machine, I kind of had a mental breakdown.
Yes.
Some might say that. Some might.
I think Scooty and I were having a pretty heated text battle.
That's about as heated a text battle I've ever been in.
I was in a dark place. Boys.
Well, there was no talking you back for a few minutes. You got mad and you went to a place where you were just like,
it was a bad spot.
To Hades with it, the whole thing, and I'm going home. I hate everything.
Listen, it was rough.
I think, it's still, I won't say that I am concerned about the rest of the season. They need to start winning on the road. That's kind of an obvious statement. I think for me, that Kansas loss, because I think I had been expecting the Baylor loss. That was going to be a tough win no matter what. And Kansas, we've been beating in Morgantown. And I think that just the fact that what was the stat, Johnson? Wasn't it like we had our last field goal in the game was with like 5 minutes left? Like we couldn't score.
Yeah.
It was that Asaboyan had that dribble drive, and it looked beautiful, and that was the last time, other than a foul shot.
And guard play struggled. I mean, we had some terrible turnovers in the stretch that was really feeding it, and then we could not make a shot to finish out the game to save ourselves. I think they went on a 9-0 run.
I was worried for your sons, Guido, and here's why.
Why?
I felt like your mood after this game was one where you took the boys outside and made them continuously try to dribble drive into the paint on you, and you continuously blocked their shots and said, do it again. And then you would make them dribble drive and you'd block their shot. No, again, score on me. And you were just mad, and you were trying to take out your frustration, and you were that edgy.
Yeah, I was edgy. I was just, we needed him to play. We needed him to play those last 5 minutes, and they didn't play those last.
But Guido, I think that's too why we were so negative. Scoot yelled at us for being so negative after Oklahoma, but this is kind of why, because we knew Kansas was going to be tough, and then I was with you. I knew we had to go to Baylor, so that's why I wanted that Oklahoma game to be a win so bad, and that's why I went into the doldrums when we came out of that with a loss, because we knew this 2-game stretch was just going to be walking into a buzzsaw.
It's like you opened the door for the dark side for Guido to go in.
Maybe that might have been it.
That's what it was.
I think that the Kansas loss, not the Baylor loss this week, but the Kansas loss made the K-State and Oklahoma losses more painful to me. I think that's what it is. Because I think if we hadn't lost, or even if we'd only lost one of those 2 games, and then we dropped, these 3 or these 2 this week against Kansas and Baylor, I don't think I'd be so frustrated.
Yeah, I think it compounds it. I totally agree. I think losing Oklahoma then set you up for, if you did lose these 2 games, it just compounded things. And something that I wanted to touch on really fast, and then we can probably leave Kansas, but Derek Culver. We've been talking about Derek Culver's body language and frustration for a couple weeks now, and it started to hit me, and I was going to lead into the Baylor talk with this, but we kind of texted about it, and it kind of hit me during the Kansas game that I had been reading his frustration is, if you don't watch the ball and you just watch Culver in the lane, he's usually in a wrestling match with someone, they're banging on him. When he finally gets the ball, then he's so frustrated that he tries to just muscle his way to the basket. Often people flop on him and draw calls and stuff, and then you'll see body language because he's frustrated. Well, the Kansas game, especially the second half, and then definitely into the Baylor game, it seemed like the frustration was at his teammates. I don't know. It wasn't that it started. It feels like it started in the Kansas game, but definitely, now I guess we're going to flip over to Baylor. He's he's yelling at guys. He's yelling at Sean McNeil to cut through. Like, McNeil doesn't know when he's supposed to cut. He's yelling at Brandon Napper to switch the ball to the wing. You just get the impression he's like frustrated with everyone and what they're supposed to be doing, what they're not doing. And to me, that grabbed my attention because Scoot and I had already been talking about it. Seems like every once in a while, and Scoot, tell me what you think, but it seems like every once in a while you catch Hugs arguing with Larry Harrison on the sideline too. So
I saw that.
You put all that together and it's kind of like, man, what, something just doesn't feel right now.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a matter of strategy that they're arguing about, or is it where Hugs feels like Larry's coddling somebody, or possibly vice versa? I don't think it would be that way. I think it would always be, I would always err on the side that Hugs would be the disciplinarian or the bad cop, as opposed to the assistants being the good cops. But maybe it is flip-flopped. I'm not sure.
Well, and I guess I'm just speculating. I don't know, but I'm just speculating. At the time of, during the Baylor game when I noticed it just struck me like, do you think Hugs is turning around to Harrison and saying they don't know where they're supposed to be on the floor? You see Culver like yelling at people to make a cut, make an entry pass, stuff like that. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but
typically the way that I think it works is I think Larry Harrison does a lot with the guards and the wings, and Eric Martin does a lot with the bigs. So maybe it's a situation where Hugs is saying, you got to teach your guards to enter the ball into the post the right way. They're not doing what we need them to do. And Larry, of course, is taking offense to that. Like, hey, we work on this in practice all the time.
Yeah, it just makes me wonder, Guido, I don't know, maybe we're reading too much into that, but it just seems like you see it on the sideline and the court. So maybe just makes me wonder what's going on there.
I still have a problem with, I saw, everything you guys are talking about, but I still have a problem with, I don't think this is a coaching issue per se. I still think this is a team leadership issue. I don't want to use the excuse of, they're young, but they're young, and I think that we all kind of hope that maybe McCabe or Culver would be a standout leader this year on this team, like the give me the ball kind of guy. And we don't have that. And I think it's hard for a guy like Deuce, who I think is a give me the ball kind of guy, to get that when he's a freshman. And so I think that's part of the problem. I think the other thing is that there's enough tape on us now that these teams are better at defending us. They've shut down Culver, which I think is 90% of his crankiness, that you see out there, his frustration.
Yeah. And I think we pack it in, we like teams pack it in on us, and then we don't have the guard group doesn't shoot consistently enough at percentage. We have standouts here and there.
Every time the ball enters the post, the post player is being doubled. Doesn't matter who it is. Could be,
they
could
pack
be Oscar,
it in.
Could be Derek, could be Emmett Matthews. Whoever's in that post, or Haley, they're getting doubled every time.
Logan Rout's even getting doubled. Yeah, you're right. When you say that, I think about it. And then I think the consistency of the guard play is Taz at for the Baylor game. Taz had a great game at Baylor.
It's a shame we couldn't have played a little bit better D while he was hot. He was scorching hot during that game.
And then McCabe, who didn't look that great and only played 8 minutes at the Baylor game, looked really good in the Kansas game.
He had a really good scoring and rebounding game against Kansas. And I think, to be honest, in the Baylor situation, I'd rather have McCabe and Deuce in the rotation a little bit more than they seem to be. It seems like take a Sean McNeil. Scoot, didn't you think that was odd? He didn't play at all against Kansas. I don't know if there was a reason for that, but then he came back against Baylor, and he and Brandon Napper manned the guard position, the 1 and 2, for a long period of the game, which seemed weird to me.
I guess he had been sick and had the flu and missed 3 games due to the flu.
Yeah,
that's what my sources tell me.
Your sources, which are reading stories on the internet, reading stories on various WVU internet web pages.
That's right.
I think the other thing is the turnovers are just getting worse. Like, the whole turnover situation is,
I agree,
it's on a very negative decline. There was at one point, I think we were texting at the Baylor game where we had almost as many turnovers as we had points.
Yeah.
I think we had 28 points and we had 20 turnovers. It was not pretty. it was a little rough.
Well, and for some reason it's at an epidemic level. I don't know where that came from, but there against Baylor, we finished with 22 turnovers.
But we had 19 against Kansas, so it's like those numbers are still high. Those numbers are still high.
And we forced 20 against Baylor, but still, I mean, that for us that just seems really high. And I think you notice that a lot of those turnovers, if you scan the box score, it's Gabe, it's Oscar, it's Derek Culver, and I think that's because they're trying to still do the high-low entry passes in the lane, and it's just so packed in there, it's hard to do it, and so we tend to turn the ball over. But anyway.
So here's a little game we're going to play tonight, guys, which is I'm coach at WVU. How do I feel right now? So you're Bob Huggins, Scooty. Where are you with this team? How do you feel right now as coach? What's your game plan if you were Bob Huggins?
Outwardly, he's going to say we just got to shoot better, right? So that's what we just got to shoot it better. That's what he tends to say most of the time.
You sounded
but
like
here's the thing.
You sounded like Hugs. If Hugs was in the mafia, I mean,
Hey,
we got to shoot it better.
Low, kind of monotone voice. I don't know, Jay.
He's like, I'm drinking more wine.
Tony,
baby.
we just got to shoot it better, Tony. We're just not shooting the ball, Tony.
He's like Huggins' post games with Tony. It's like Eeyore comes out. I mean, even if we win a game, sometimes I feel like Eeyore comes out to do the post game press conference. But here's the thing, Scoot. Like you say that, and I know he says that too. We got to shoot it better. We got to make shots. We don't make shots. Huggins, in his 40-odd years of coaching basketball, has never recruited or coached an offensive-based team.
Yeah, but can I weigh in on that, though, Guido? Because after the Kansas game, I was ready to torch anyone with a G beside their name, right? Just kick them completely off the team. And right. I went back before I, instead of maybe following you into the, what did we call Oklahoma's
pit
place?
of despair?
Like the wagon wheel of despair last week?
Yeah, right.
Instead of heading into like the Oregon Trail wagon wheel of despair, I went back and looked at stats over the Oklahoma, Kansas and Baylor, just that 3-game set. And if you add up all the guards, field goals made, field goals attempted, you're pretty much averaging around 40%. If you go to any, stats site for college basketball this year, average. Now, sure, there's teams that shoot really well and there's teams that don't. But if you had to give an average, you're probably really low 40s or somewhere around 40%. So, I mean, that's not, it feels bad when they're shooting 6% against Kansas, but really they're shooting really probably on average. So I think what we need is just consistently for someone to be able to make a shot late in those games. And that's what we haven't been seeing. So,
do you know what's crazy is my man Johnson. You can tell he is an Excel sheet, a analyst by trade kind of guy.
I have an Excel sheet for these stats if you want.
When he watches the game, he's working figures. He's the analytics guy. I am way more the feel guy, right? I'm the old school baseball guy. He is new school, bang on the drum, bang on the trash can. Here are the analytics.
On the trash can.
I don't worry about shooting percentage. I don't know that Huggs worries about shooting percentage in the sense that he feels that if they get more possessions, they're bound to shoot more. They've got to get more offensive rebounds because I think he builds his teams to get offensive rebounds. Well, if you're building your team to get offensive rebounds, you're assuming you're going to shoot a bunch of shots that aren't going to go in. Right? So that's how he builds his teams. Like Oscar Shibwe is great at offensive rebounds. What's that tell you about the rest of the team? Well, they miss a lot of freaking shots.
Well, and the interesting thing too, Scoot, about this 3-game set especially, it would have pushed you to not play Brandon Napper and Chase Harler nearly as much as they play.
They chuck and they miss. And I think
unfortunately.
I think that I don't know if there's a real easy answer. I do think that maybe sometimes he needs to, I don't know, would it hurt to try to switch up the defenses a little bit in the sense that could you press a little bit just to kind of see if you can get a couple of runouts and some quicker baskets? Yes, you're going to give up an easy basket here or there because that's what presses do. But maybe that generates a little bit of momentum and some offense in some of those situations where it feels stagnant because half-court offense is rough especially when you got two giants in there and there's nowhere to go.
Well, and I'm not going to second guess Huggs. I mean, but I do agree that, I mean, we've seen Huggs be creative. That's where Press Virginia came from. I just feel like I think if I were Huggs or if I were the staff, I would just see what I could tweak to attack that differently, because teams are obviously just going to hammer on Oscar and Derek Culver, try to get him frustrated, try to get him in foul trouble. And so I'm not saying I know what that tweak would be, but it seems like we need something to tweak that, so it's not just, if that's not working, it's game over.
Well, and you know what he's been talking about a lot lately in those post games and other things is stamina, is conditioning. It sounds like he's more concerned lately about conditioning. I think that might be part of what affects him calling the press a lot, is that the guy's getting back, and I mean, they're already up and down the court a ton. So I don't know. I'm making them run. Well, you're not allowed to call them suicides anymore. You know that, right? Have you heard about this?
It's called the ladders.
Yeah, I assume we're not
you got to
supposed
run
to say
ladders.
that.
Yeah, you're not supposed to say that anymore. When we were kids.
Well, Guido, can I put you in a bad mood?
Okay, go. Here we go.
Great. The last time it was a great time.
Well, they play Oklahoma State.
The Fighting Burt Reynolds.
Yes. Who have played Guido remarkably well in the Coliseum. Do you know that since and this is, I'm stealing this from Josh Witt, by the way, because Josh always flips some good basketball tweets out there. So if you're not following Josh, you should during basketball season. Josh pointed out that
unreasonable doubt, unnecessary doubt, unfortunate doubt.
No, unreasonable. He's
unnecessary
gonna get mad
propositions.
At us. It's not unnecessary proposition. It's unreasonable doubt. So since WVU joined the Big 12, they're 2-5 against Oklahoma State in the Coliseum, in the biscuit basket. So Mike Boynton,
why are you doing this?
Mike Boynton is 3-2 against Huggs. Now, would you have ever thought that? I did not realize that.
We can't have a 4-game losing streak.
If you're calming down, thinking we're coming home to the biscuit basket, maybe don't relax just yet, because these guys have had success.
Why do you do this thing?
Well, think about how good WVU must be nationally perceived, though. How many teams in America can go on a 3-game losing streak yet remain in the top 17?
No, I know that's what I said. I'm glad. I was afraid it would be way worse, or even,
So we're home against Oklahoma State, then we go on the road for 2 games, and then we're back against Oklahoma, away at Iowa State, and home at Baylor. We got to win. We got to win all of those games but Baylor. Like that's all I'm saying. We got to win all those games but Baylor.
Well, I think it's interesting though, because all of those games up to Baylor, Scoot, you would say are certainly winnable.
Oh yeah. Yes.
So think how happy Guido would be if we fast forward on a 5-game win streak and then we cure some ills against Baylor and pull something special off.
Well,
I would listen. We would be back in the top 10 ranked. I don't know. Well, listen, guys, let's take a break. We're gonna still talk basketball. We're gonna come back in segment 2, and we're gonna talk a little bit of the fans. We're gonna talk about the fans. The fans need some attention, so I think we're going to talk about the fans when we come back. So don't go anywhere. You're listening to Got Your Eers On. Vortec Knives is a West Virginia owned and operated company specializing in high-quality steel, fast-opening, everyday carrying knives. If you go to vortechknives.com today and use the code GYEO, you get a 25% discount on your entire order. That's Vortech, VORTEK knives.com, a West Virginia owned and operated company specializing in fast opening, high quality, everyday carry knives. Vortec Knives. All right, welcome back to Got Your Eers On. Don't forget, check us out on the social medias. You can find us on Facebook. Just search Got Your Eers On. You can find us on Twitter at Got Your Ears. You can find us on Instagram at Got Your Ears. All of it. We're out there. Find us, tweet at us, text us, tell us everything. Don't forget, you can also call our hotline. We got a hotline, right, Scoot? Got that hotline bling?
That's right. Hotline bling.
You can give us a call at 304-518-GYEO. That's 304-518-4936. So you got to call. Leave us a message. Text us. You can
518 GYEO hotline. We need a jingle.
I'm gonna take that clip and just replay
I feel like we
week.
need a jingle.
We do need a jingle. So, boys. So let's talk a little about Coach Carey. Mike Carey came out in his press conference this week.
Oh boy!
And made some comments about the fans.
He did the dang
he talked
thing,
about.
didn't
He did. He kind of laid into the to the fans. Complaining about how quick they turn on you. They're with you 1 minute and then the next minute they're against you. Oh, how we're not doing this and how the players aren't doing that. And this comes on the heels, of the men's team. They're right now in the last 6 games. West Virginia men's basketball is 2-4, 2 wins, 4 losses in the last 6 games. And the women's team, which is not playing bad. They're 5-7 in the conference, which isn't great, but they're 15-8 overall. But they're having a tough time in the conference, and I think that's been where he's coming from. Where they've lost. You
mean the conference with the returning national champion in
yes,
Baylor?
And he said in that press conference, guys, he said, he's been here 19 seasons, almost 20 years. He said, before he got to WVU, the women's team had only been into the NCAA, tournament 2 times before he got there. And in the last 20 years, how many times? I can't even tell you how many times they've been in. Probably a dozen times. They seem to be in most years. So I feel like, to me, I felt like he came out and said this, on the heels of everything that's going on with the men's team and his struggles in the conference with the women's team. And so how do you feel about Mike Carey kind of being the sounding board or the person who speaks out for pretty much the athletic department towards the fans on this, Johnson?
I don't like it. I'll just be honest. I think it feels too much like it's the same feeling. It's that same yucky feeling I get when Hugs decides to get on his soapbox about 6,000 people being in the Coliseum to watch a Wednesday game against Duquesne
at 9:00 at night. Yeah,
right.
At
9:00 at night on ESPN 42+. And he's, this feels the same way. I mean, I love Mike Carey, but fans suck. We know fans suck. And it's not just West Virginia fans. I think all fan bases do this. And it's now you have given anyone who wants to have a voice a Twitter handle or a Facebook page or a podcast and you have, outlets for people to just get on high and just scream at him about it. And I think, also when you're great, I mean, that's the other thing too. I think they were 10-1. They are coming off of a Big 12 conference championship tournament run last year, right? I mean, they've had so much success here. I think you spoil people. And I think when you go through a rough patch like they're in right now, then yeah, people, man, they are fickle. They have short memories. I mean, come on, we know this. I mean, we're fans. We do this. It's like right now, Mike Carey's skewed. He's got like a herd of Guidos following him around. Like just negative.
Yeah, right. And here's the thing that gets me is that I would think that these guys being the coaches, I would think that these coaches would be preaching not to their players and preaching to their athletes, hey, don't pay attention to the noise. Stay off the Twitter. Don't listen to the noise. And I feel like he's just feeding into it by doing this in a way. Like it just, I don't think it backfired. I mean, I think most of the comments you saw out there were pretty positive about it, but I think he fed into it more.
I like it
than anything else.
I like it. I think it's kind of refreshing in the sense that a lot of times we get a lot of coach speak because people are afraid of backlash for what they may or may not say. A lot of times you get a lot of, You got to tip your hat to them. You got to give them credit. They deserve, like you get a lot of that jazz. This was more on the side of, you know what? I don't like how this is feeling or how this is, and I'm going to actually come out and say it. You're not going to, because I guarantee you, there's a lot of times where coaching, you're kind of like, man, these people are crazy. They don't know what goes on, day in, day out, and they're going to be the first ones to jump ship or the first ones to criticize. They don't realize all the different moving parts. And this is kind of, I want to say that he said a lot for not just his program, but for college coaches, for high school coaches, for anyone, and for whatever reason. And I guess it's because, I think it's because if you watch mainstream media and you watch college basketball, the coaches are just as much a key figure, and sometimes they're the most popular, the one thing that people who don't follow teams know. Oh, like Mike Krzyzewski. I couldn't name you 10 guys on Duke, but I know Mike Krzyzewski. So that's what people know. So I think a lot of times, I think college coaches in basketball are such a prominent figure, but a lot of times they take the blame unnecessarily, or sometimes they, like he said, people love you when you win, but when you lose, you can't coach, and it's the coach's fault. And a lot of times the onus is not on the player, it's on the coach.
I feel like you're the Skip Bayless to my Shannon Sharp. Like, I feel like you just wait for me to say I like or don't like something. Like, I said I don't like this, you're like, I love it.
Well, I do like it. I'm not saying it just because you said the opposite. I really do like it. I mean, I coached high school athletics, and I've been interviewed. There's, countless times, and a lot of times.
Did you say, Jesus, God, Tyler County will turn on you in a heartbeat?
No, because I did. Because there's that. I think of like. You've got the little angel on one shoulder and the little devil on the other shoulder, and
yeah,
and
good scoot, bad scoot.
Yeah, and I often think like, okay, if I say this, how will this be perceived? Will Johnny's mom and dad be upset if I call out the defense, or if I say the offense wasn't producing? Am I going to have to deal with that? So a lot of times you get a vanilla answer because it's not, in your mind, it's not worth the trouble of saying exactly how you feel. And you kind of have to weigh out, will this be more of a detriment than it is a help to your team down the road by saying what you're thinking? Now, I would say a lot of those things that he said in the privacy of our locker room or whatever. I had no problem telling players, listen, you're not doing the job, or you need to be doing the job differently. And because I think it's important that kids, players know, the truth and why they may not be seeing as much time, or what they can work on to get more playing time.
Well, I think it does do that, though, right? I think the locker room probably says, hey, coach has got our back. He's telling those ding-dongs to shut their traps, and he's got our back. He's telling them they're crazy, and we're going to be just fine. So I think it does probably do that.
And maybe that's what it's for, because I can't imagine he thought he would go out there and say this, and all of a sudden all the crazy internet people would start being like, oh, we love. It's like this week, guys. I've been, we've got the petition for Bob Huggins, to rename the court Bob Huggins Court.
Yes.
And I post it pretty much every week in a couple of Facebook groups to try to promote it and get more signatures. So, by the way, go to change.org, type in Bob Huggins, and you can sign the petition if you haven't yet. But I posted it this week, and, I get a lot of responses, and people say done or did it, great. And then I get one response this week from some lady named Wanda, and Wanda puts on there, she's like, well, I'll wait till after March tournament to see if I'll sign it. And I'm like,
what?
Come on, lady. Like,
Wanda,
what are you thinking?
Are you effing kidding me, Wanda?
Like,
are you serious?
It's like, why is it, what does one season matter? What are these, these one instances matter? But the problem is I feel like by him, Scooty, going out and talking about it, is he trying? Is that what it was to get his players' attention, or is he actually thinking that the crazy internet people are going to stop posting crazy internet things?
Well, I don't think it's realistic to think that people are going to stop posting things.
Do you think that's aimed at Wanda? Maybe Wanda's been on his case too.
Maybe he saw Wanda's comment, and I think he just saw Wanda's comment on my post. That's what it was.
And he's like, you know what? I got something for Wanda at the next conference.
I'm going to say something that may be taken the wrong way. So,
well, we'll definitely be happy to take it the wrong way.
Okay. So, I was looking up and I couldn't find it. Maybe you guys are better at finding this kind of stuff. I was looking for the attendance. The attendance for the home games of WVU women's basketball.
Okay.
Because here's my point is this. While women's sports are generally not as well attended as the male sports are. Now there are some instances like you look at UConn women. They are just as well attended, and in some cases, some years have better attendance than the UConn men. I'm very sure that Baylor's attendance is very good, and same with Tennessee's women's basketball. So you've got some of your perennial Notre Dame, some of your perennial powerhouse women's basketball programs. While I like what Mike Carey is saying, is he alienating a small fan base to, I mean, calling people out's not going to bring people to the biscuit basket.
Well, here's
my point.
So here's the answer to your question, Scoot. The quick answer to your question. I don't know what their average attendance for the year, but if you go back and look at their attendance numbers this season, weeknight games, their weekday games, I guess you would say, or week evening games, they've been averaging somewhere around 1,500 people. And the weekend games, if there's a giveaway, it's around 3,000. If there's no giveaway, it's around 2,000.
Again, I like Mike Carey, but let's call it like it is. The Coliseum,
the biscuit
holds
basket,
14,000 people.
Right.
He's got 1,000 people coming on a weeknight game. I'm pretty sure if I sat up in section 210 and yelled hooty hoo, if you were sitting on the other side, you probably would hear me yell hooty hoo.
Absolutely.
Is that a thing you yell?
Sometimes I do. I kind of get out there and I
hooty hoo.
Is that a foul shot psych out kind of thing?
It could be. But I'm just saying, like, while I like the fact that he's trying to maybe rile up his team, part of their job as coaches and college coaches is to be ambassadors to the sport and to try to bring new fans in. And there is a part of their job that I'm sure when Shane Lyon sits down, they look at those numbers. They look at, what's attendance been like, because that's part of the reason why Hugs probably chirps a little bit about attendance. Yes, it does help you want a home court advantage, but also there is money involved. So right. I just wonder if it's a great move by calling fans out. Is it going to bring more? Do you think it brings more fans to the Coliseum?
I think the challenge is, for him is going to be, and I guess what I'm saying is at the end of the day, I feel like this was not necessarily driven by his team's situation as much it was him and Huggins and the program and just everything that's out there in the
I think it's just Coach Carey blowing off steam. And I think in a couple games when they get some wins under their belts, you'll look back on this as like a mid-season frustration point.
Right.
Speaking of frustration, how about the Cleveland Cavaliers?
Poor John Beilein, huh?
And John Beilein.
Yeah.
He's at one point in the season, he's been called out for making some some pretty disparaging remarks, or I guess it was misunderstood.
This is his second season with the Cavs, is that correct?
No, his first.
This is his first season. So he's got a 5-year deal.
Yes.
He's got a 5-year deal with the Cavs, and they're talking about separating halfway through his first season. And he's got the worst record in the NBA right now. Is this the college game a college coach doesn't translate to the NBA? And I'm going to say no, before you even say that. And I'm going to say no because, look at some other college coaches that have done it. Look at the Celtics right now. They're winning.
I don't know that he's got the personality for the NBA.
I'll go with that.
I think he is a little bit more blue collar. I think he's a little bit more do something with nothing kind of coach. I think he can he can get those. That's why he was so successful at Richmond. That's a big reason why he was successful at WVU. He had great success at Michigan, but Michigan was kind of down on their luck when he took them.
Yeah.
So I think he does a lot when the situation is bad. I think he's good at rebuilding things. NBA, different animal, right? You've got just about every player on your roster is the best player from their college program, and a lot of them are a little bit more entitled.
Pace is different. Defense is different. Not that he wasn't a defensive coach, but.
And you can't call out an NBA guy and it'd be the same as calling out a college guy. Like if somebody's not doing what they're supposed to do in the NBA, they're going to say, who's this guy? Why is he telling me what I can't do?
Right.
Well, I love John Beilein. This is unfortunate. I mean, I think John Beilein's a great coach. I was surprised, let's be honest, at his age that he'd want to go fight those NBA battles to begin with. So, and now it's kind of odd after not even one season he might be leaving. Now, what I don't like though even more is that now there's open talk of where he might go in the college ranks again. One of those places being Texas.
Yeah, that could be rough. That could be rough to have to play him twice a year.
I don't want to face John Beilein twice a year and maybe in the conference tournament. I mean, just because I mean, this is the remember when? Of course you remember when Rich Rod went to Michigan. We immediately hated Michigan. I took delight in Michigan football losses. When Beilein went to Michigan, I didn't do that. In fact,
no, we were all kind of like okay with it.
I actually pulled for Michigan. I mean, John Beilein was always a great ambassador for WVU, and I think he's just in general a great ambassador up to this point for the sport of basketball, for college basketball. So this sucks, but if he does return to college, man, that would be weird to see him on an opposing sideline. I would not be in love with that.
I was going to say, would it be weird if Huggs asked him to join the staff?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%. And that would never happen. But
I don't know. I mean, listen, Huggs brings in a lot of ex-head coaches.
Yeah, but that wouldn't happen. I don't imagine that would happen. Here's the question I have for you, Scoot. You're John Beilein. You're about to get canned by the Cleveland Cavaliers. You're half a year into your 5-year contract, multi-million-dollar 5-year contract. Do you get a job next year, or do you just hang out?
Well, I believe he's like 65 or older. I just hang out.
I would just hang out.
What do you have? I mean, because
let's go buy a nice house.
Saying that he's done fairly well, especially in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
As far as college coaching goes. So financially, he should be fairly set.
Let's whoop it up
and relax.
Yeah, right. Well, listen, guys, let's take a break here. We're going to come back and talk about my favorite sport. We're going to talk about baseball,
Cricket.
WVU. Cricket. No, not cricket. Baseball. 100% baseball. WVU had a good weekend, and we'll talk about that right after this. You're listening to Got Your Ears On.
Tactical Legion Knives, a West Virginia owned and operated company that specializes in heavy-duty tactical knives and gear for the professional warrior, the weekend warrior, and the outdoor warrior. Our products are built tough. For who? For warriors. Hey Mountaineer fans, make sure you go on Amazon and search Tactical Legion Knives, and when you do, make sure you put in the promo code 25TOBRADIO for Tob Radio. You'll get 25% off on Tactical Legion Knives.
All right, welcome back to Got Your Ears On. Don't forget, check out our website, gotyourearson.com. Johnson, it's a great place to find out stuff about us.
Yes, Jesus God, go to the website already. Why won't you?
He's so angsty.
I mean, it's crazy
So
how
angsty.
little Got Your Ears On web users will turn on you in a minute and not go to your website. My Jesus God.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's the hub for everything. So if you hit the subscribe page, then you can see the listing of where we're located on all the socials. So it's all the usual suspects like you would imagine. And then wherever you listen to your podcasts, believe me, you're going to be able to find us. So Everything we talk about on the show, we immediately post and try to hit all the show notes in the post. So check it out.
Mr. Johnson goes to the Mike Carey School of Promotion.
It's like they've never been to a website before and looked at one.
Come on.
Clearly, I'd like to
come talk to me about a
I'd
website.
Like to see some people that have been
come to my office.
Listen,
come to my office and talk to me about a website.
I love the web. I've been on the web the whole time. I've never left the web. But Jesus, God, the web will just turn on you in a minute and not visit your website.
Oh, that's too funny. Well, listen, guys, West Virginia University started their baseball season this weekend down in Jacksonville playing, Jacksonville University or University of Jacksonville?
Yeah,
I don't know
Jacksonville University. I believe they're the Dolphins.
That's it's Florida. Aren't half the team named the Dolphins in Florida? Isn't that's all they got down there? Is Dolphins.
I thought
the team's either called the Dolphins or the Manatees. It's like
Scoot was going to be. Well, it's Jacksonville. They are the sea urchins.
No, they're the
Dolphins, Manatees, or Gators. So they did well, guys. 2-1, and they really should have swept that series. It was that middle game was a tough loss for them. But I want to talk about some standout players that we saw. Austin Davis had a nice weekend. He was 3 for 8 with 2 stolen bases, and Tevin Tucker, 3 stolen bases, 3 for 3 on stolen bases. So we're taking those bases. They're running like you, Scoot. They're stealing the bases.
Well, and Guido, the other thing you talked about, they should have swept the series. The one funny thing, so I was watching the Baylor game with my dad, and we're in the middle of trying not to jump off the roof about that game, and 1 minute my dad goes, well, one good thing, the baseball team's up 3-0, and then 5 minutes later he goes, baseball team lost 4-3. I was like, oh, that's terrific. Yeah, let's just lump that on the fire of today's games. That's awesome.
But the standout for the weekend, guys, was Braden Zarbniski. Say that 10 times real fast. What a weekend. He plays like Scoot does. He's an Iron Man. He goes all over the place. He was 6 for 13 with a stolen base, couple walks. He's got a 500 on base percentage, but he also had 2 saves this weekend.
Wow, nice.
So
that is Iron Man.
He is. If you can have Iron Man in baseball, that's what he's doing. On top of that, I think we've got another Alex Manoah if Jackson Wolf continues to do what he did. Alec, what did I say?
Yeah.
Alex. Jackson Wolf pitched 7 innings. Gave up 1 hit with 8 strikeouts in the opener. So they're looking good, guys. I think it's going to be a fun team to watch. They play Kinesis on Tuesday. That's on Mountaineer TV, Mountaineer TV is like half their games, by the way. All the home games, I think, are on Mountaineer TV,
nice.
At least most of them. Mountaineer TV is if you go to WVSports.com or WVUSports.com, WVUSports.com, you can watch it online. There's a couple of games also on ESPN and ESPN Plus throughout the season. I'm excited for West Virginia University baseball, just for the fact that they're coming out ranked. There's a lot of positive press on them this year, and I'm just becoming a Randy Mazey fan.
Oh yeah,
like every day.
Yeah, it's easy to be.
Like, he's a great coach, Scoot. I
agree.
So in other baseball talk, we should just talk about it a little bit because Scoot and I are baseball guys. Johnson's a baseball guy. We're all baseball guys, and
he's a baseball guy, yet he likes a West Coast team.
He's an A's fan,
and nobody knows anybody on the West Coast or.
Listen, one of his A's right now players caused a lot of uproar.
Yeah. Speaking of,
mostly in his monkey tail mustache.
So
how ridiculous is that?
So guys, this Astros thing kind of went off the rails in the last week.
Just when I think it's going to get better, it gets dramatically worse.
And first of all, the Astros made it worse this week. They couldn't have done
I agree.
A worse job at coming out and doing a press conference than anything else. And then it just kind of steamrolled from there with like Cody Bellinger. Scooty just came out and just attacked.
He's
attacked
angry.
them and attacked Altuve.
Mike Trout's coming out and saying stuff. He's angry. When Trout talks, Trout never speaks. People think he's a mute, and he's talking about how he's upset with the Astros. It's going to be bad. I think you're going to see a lot of Astros players doubling up on the elbow guards and maybe even wearing some of that football pro combat padding underneath their uniforms because they're going to get drilled.
Yeah, I sent that tweet to you guys of someone tweeted out something I thought was hilarious. They were saying the caption was Astros players preparing for the upcoming season, and it was that scene from Happy Gilmore where he gets in the batting cage and just stands there and takes baseballs to the face and the chest and stuff.
I mean,
it's going to be bad.
It's going to be rough.
It's going to be rough, I think. And then I don't think Carlos Correa helped the situation at all with his interview with Ken Rosenthal over the weekend, where he pretty much, and here's the thing, I think he said a lot of spot on and really interesting things. And I'm actually to a point now that I don't think there were buzzers. I think the buzzer thing is false. Like, I don't think they were wearing buzzers under their jerseys.
I don't know.
I don't think they were. I really don't. I think that the knocking on trash cans was, egregious enough. And I think that's got what most people worked up about. I'm not sure I believe that there were really buzzers. Because first of all say that if they had buzzers on during a Major League Baseball game or even a Major League Baseball playoff game against the Yankees, that's pretty brazen. Like, that's brave, man. You got to have a set on you to do something like that.
I think they did. I'm not sold that they didn't, and I think a lot of the players think they did, and that's what makes me think that maybe there's something to that. Because the players would have a better idea of whether or not this is legit and this is possible. So somebody must have been talking about it because...
Yeah, so the commissioner came out and pretty much said, well, I gave them all immunity. Why would they not just be 100% truthful with me and say that they were wearing buzzers or say that they also cheated in 2019 and all this other stuff? I'm not sure that he would have kept the immunity if they had said they were using buzzers, though.
I don't think you can take it away once you offer it.
I mean, is there I don't think there's anything binding. I don't think there was maybe there was.
Well, that's like, so listen, you're not going to get in trouble. I need to know how the money was stolen. You're not going to get in trouble. And then you say, well, I opened up the cash register and took the money. Well, I know I told you weren't going to get in trouble, but you can't do that.
Yeah, you can't. You're definitely going to do that. You cheated, you stole, you know.
But an interesting thing in all this stuff here that we're reading about in these last couple of weeks, I was following Oakland since, Scoot always gives me all this crap, but I do follow the A's, and I was reading about how Tony Kemp just got picked up by the A's from Houston. He was there. I think starting in 2017, and I was reading just an article where he started off by saying that teammates asked him to be a part of it. He said no, and then just from his account put his head down and kept playing and went on about his business like it wasn't a thing. I find that hard to believe, and that that they're saying that his quote was, "I just tried to keep my head down and play hard and not really concern myself with it." Don't you think that's odd? I just find comments like that weird. I get trying to distance yourself, but if I'm the rest of the A's clubhouse and someone says that, I just kind of look at them sideways, I feel like.
Well, and then there's the other side of the coin, which is maybe Major League Baseball, maybe the commissioner's office are telling them, and maybe they found out about the buzzers and they're telling them, hey, don't say anything about the buzzers. We don't want the buzzers to come out.
Well, it wouldn't shock me.
It would have shocked them.
Yeah.
And then they would have swung the bat.
But
Ooh, that was a good one.
That was not a good one.
It's not when you say that was a good one, it's not a good one.
That was a good joke.
That was a grandpa joke.
Jokes,
Yeah,
yes, it's funny.
Team dad jokes right there.
I don't know. I think that there's a lot to it that I believe. What bothers me the most, and I'm sure it bothers the actual players, and I look at Clayton Kershaw. Hasn't really been the same since. I look at Yu Darvish. Hasn't really been the same since. He just started to kind of get out of a funk. You look at Aroldis Chapman, the most dominant closer in the game, and he's giving up a home run to a 5'2" midget. What is that? I mean, come on. This is...
I agree with you, Scoot, to some point. I mean, I think that it's baseball and everybody goes hot and cold and everybody, careers ebb and flow. But I will tell you who it has hurt, and I think it very badly, is guys like Correa and Altuve, all of those guys, Springer. Like, I think it's really it hurts their stock.
They're all going to have this attached to them for the rest of their life. No matter what they do, it's going to be attached to them.
Right. It's like a scarlet letter.
The other reason I brought this article up about Tony Kemp, at one point they asked him about like what he thinks of what's going on from the contrition from Houston, and he said, quote, "You definitely feel for them." Scoot, do you definitely feel for them?
No, I don't feel for them.
I don't think anyone feels for them.
And that sounds to me like he is distancing himself
Yes,
from them because he was one of them.
Yes,
He was one of
exactly.
them.
I feel for those guys.
The-
They're not me. They were me, but
So back to your example, it's like driving the getaway car from the bank heist and then sitting with the cops going, "Yeah, man, you got to feel for this."
Man,
I think they're
you guys
remorseful.
you
I feel for those
we
guys.
need to book those
Right.
guys. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a bad scene down there right now. It's going to be an interesting spring training, and this story isn't going to die. And then I really do think something's going to come out about the Red Sox here in the next, couple of weeks.
I just don't think Coach Mazey has anybody banging on trash cans trying to steal signs. So
Do you think that this changes baseball in the future? Like, does this change?
Well, I think it's already changing college baseball because I saw some rules about wristbands and things that now they'll have signs written, I think, on wristbands where people can check instead of sending signs in from the catcher that I thought was interesting to try and,
Right.
even just head off the need to steal signs to begin with. I mean, I'm sure there's more to it than that, I'm sure, but I thought that was interesting. Now, college baseball can probably act, faster. I don't know that we ever see. I'd be surprised if MLB did that. I think MLB is just going to keep on trucking.
Here's what we need to have happen. Every sign needs to be relayed somehow. So I think there needs to be a running coach, and the running coach takes the sign, runs it over to the catcher, whispers in the catcher's ear, "This is what you're supposed to throw."
Yeah, that's just going to make baseball games even longer than they already are. 10 hours later, the game is over. Do you think, guys, what about taking away the World Series from the Astros?
No, I don't think you do that. Just simply because baseball has an asterisk next to Roger Maris. Go through baseball history and you're going to find, the steroid era. People already argue about that. I think this is just one more thing that you can't go back and change the past. It happened. The Astros were champions. They won the games. To me, Guido, I think that's just something that I would think it would just kind of add to the circus if you now tried to take that title away from them.
It's the same thing, though. I agree with you. Taking away a championship, though, doesn't change it. Like, everybody still thinks, what was that, 2013 Louisville won and they took it away? Like,
Exactly. Yep.
What's that? What did it do? Nobody.
Can you agree that first thing, none of the Astros' current players or players from the 2017 season will make it into the Hall of Fame because of this, and that Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame?
I don't know. I think that Pete Rose...
They shouldn't be in, but they're not banned. He can't get in because he is banned.
True.
I mean, there's still the possibility that they can get in.
I think the Pete Rose question's more nuanced, but I think the Hall of Fame question, I think I can see them getting treated just like the folks that are suspected steroid users, and them being,
like
being
Bonds.
eligible, but just never getting in because of people holding that against them. So that
It's gonna be an interesting. I tell you, like, I love the analogy of, like, those guys need to be wearing football pads out there because it is going to be a rough season to be a Houston Astro, especially the big three names, especially the Springer and the Correa and the Altuve. Like, those guys are.
I'll tell you what, I think Bregman's going to get drilled because Bregman's already kind of got an attitude.
Bregman too. He's another one. Yeah, he's another one. You're right. So it'll be fun to watch. I can't wait. Baseball games, spring training games start this week, guys. I'm excited.
A's are taking the West.
3 hours later, because they're on the West Coast, nobody watches that stuff on the West Coast.
I mean,
Like,
I follow it. There's this thing
I
called the
follow it.
internet.
Listen,
Maybe you've heard
No
of it.
one roots for teams on the West Coast because they're on the West Coast.
Guido used to listen to the Dodgers every night.
I used to go to bed, listen to Vin every night.
Falling asleep because it's too late.
You sound like an old man, Scoot. What time you go to bed? Like,
Listen,
9 o'clock? Oh, we're gonna get to bed.
East Coast bias is real.
Can you get me some warm milk, please, Dubs? I need to go to bed.
Yeah, Scoot's like Pirates lost 10-1, but God God I got to watch. Thank God I got to watch.
I got to watch that
I
whole
got to watch
game.
the whole
Saw that-
thing. They got
saw that
crushed.
whole
Oh, Pirates are in San Diego. Saw the first inning. Looked great. Then I fall asleep. Then we can see the rest of the game. Thank God for the internet. I'd have to wait for the late score on the newspaper 2 days later. If we didn't have internet, nobody wants that. I don't know how you were a fan. You were living like 2 days late as a child.
All right, guys. Well, listen, we should probably wrap this up. Been another great episode. We'll be back next week with another one, hopefully talking about a bunch of WVU basketball wins, right? That's what we're going to be talking about, definitely. And hopefully we won't be talking about Mike Carey yelling at us. I felt like I was a child getting yelled at by Mike Carey. So I'm sorry, Coach. I apologize. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Don't forget, check us out online, gotyourearson.com. Also, check out change.org. Type in Bob Huggins, sign the petition to get the WVU court named after him, and find us on Twitter at Got Your Ears. Boys, have a good week. We'll see you next week, and you're listening to Got Your Ears On.